different strategies that you can take as an entrepreneur on the personal side. So, really looking at different ways that you can develop different skill sets that will help you in your business. For many of you, you know the business strategy inside and out. And a lot of times you may discount some different ways that you can improve how you approach business that will not only give you an opportunity to reduce a little bit of stress, but also, you know, help you gain some different skills. As you know, as a business owner, a lot of what you do is not only on the strategic side, but it's also on the leadership side in terms of the people that you manage, how you drive results. And so, you know, talking a little bit about some of those intangible skills are really important as you look at growing the value of your business and really just growing your personal skill set. So, I'll just kind of use a couple examples of myself, some things that I've done over the last couple years as I started my entrepreneurial journey. And, you know, when I jumped into being an entrepreneur after being in corporate America for over 20 years, it was a big change. You know, you don't have the structure of the 9 to 5, you don't have the support or the resources that you're used to. And so when you go from that world to that of an entrepreneur, where you're really relying on yourself, you're relying on creating those opportunities, it is a different skill set, and it's one that develops over time. So for me personally, a lot of it was getting into the right mental mindset, because as of an entrepreneur, you have to continually grind. And, you know, you're going to have days where you feel great. You're also going to have days where you're not going to feel so great. And you have to have that mental toughness to get through those difficult days if you want to be successful. So for me, I went through a program called 75 Hard. Some of you maybe have heard about it. It was the perfect program for me. It was all about creating discipline around mental toughness. Yes, there were some physical benefits of that, but I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of what it is and kind of how it helped me personally. And so 75 Hard, it's, you know, a 75-day. Some people call it a challenge. I don't call it a challenge. When you look at 75 Hard, it is the boot camp of the Live Hard program. And so the way this program is designed is it's designed to turn into a lifestyle, not just something you do for 75 days, but something that you do to change your habits over time to where it becomes a consistent way that you live your life. And so the first boot camp, the 75 days, focuses on really 5 core tasks that you have to do on a daily basis. The key to this program is if you miss one day, you have to start back at day one. So there's no, oh, I missed yesterday, I'll just not count that and just keep going. And the reason why I really like this approach is because, again, as a business owner, it's all about momentum, and it's all about kind of catching your stride. And if you miss one day, it's not as if you can just miss that day and just keep on going. That could really interrupt your momentum and essentially put you back at start one. So the way this program was designed was to kind of help you in that mindset to just stay really disciplined to the point where you can't miss a day. Like, you have to stay on top of things. And so here are the 5 critical tasks, the primary ones that you have to do in order to successfully win the day. The first one is to do 2 workouts a day. One has to be outside. Both workouts have to be 45 minutes. The second is you have to drink a gallon of water. The third, which I really enjoyed and probably one of the more beneficial parts of this program, was to read at least 10 pages of a nonfiction book. So 10 pages of a nonfiction book every single day. The other portion of it was a progress picture. Now, a lot of people say, well, you know, that's where it kind of starts to look more of like a, you know, weight loss challenge. But if you read the book, which is the book on mental toughness, it talks about the progress picture as being one where you get to see your progress over a period of time. And you're not going to see the progress each and every day. And so, again, tying this back into being an entrepreneur, you know, it takes many days, many weeks, many months, many years for you to actually achieve this success. And you're not going to see that progress necessarily every day, but over a period of time, you will see that. And so having that consistency around that progress pick, you know, every single day is something that's really important. The other part of it is having a strict diet. And so it doesn't specify what kind of diet. The whole point of this is that you want to stick to something that you commit to and you're disciplined to. Along with that is no cheat meals, and then also no alcohol. So again, the mindset is around staying disciplined, keeping your body healthy, because if your body's healthy, your mind's healthy. So the two and two go very well together. So that's a brief overview of 75 hard. As I mentioned, you have to execute this each and every day in order to continue down towards getting to that goal, that 75th day. If you miss one, you start back at day one. Now, you track this on a daily basis, obviously, to make sure that you are on track. For me personally, it took me a couple times before I was able to complete it. I started this last year. It actually took me 3 times before I was able to complete 75 hard. It obviously is on the honor system. So, again, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. But it really helped me because I started my first business in January of 2024. I started my auto detail business. And so this helped me to really overcome a lot of the initial challenges that I faced. Starting that business, I was going from making 6 figures in a corporate job to making nothing. And not only on top of that, I was my one and only employee. So I was out there doing the details in the Phoenix weather during the summertime where it's 100, 110 degrees and you're burning yourself on every part of the car. So there were definitely days where I was just, hey, what am I doing here? Why am I putting myself through this? And so every time I started thinking through that 75-day hard, each day kind of helped me become more and more mentally tough to say that I can get through this. During that time period, I had some just crazy things happen to me. I had, my most expensive piece of equipment fall out of the back of my truck. The next day, we were supposed to be doing a really big detail for a customer. Because we were missing that piece of equipment, we weren't able to detail the car properly. The customer was upset. On top of that, during that detail, I lost my wallet going to Home Depot, trying to get a couple other materials and supplies that we needed. So it was just, literally it was a 72-hour nightmare. And I, at that point, really actually was ready to quit and to give up. But again, it was that mental toughness that allowed me to push through that. And so on top of that, it also helps to have the right support system in place. And so for me, I had my brother, who's also an entrepreneur, very successful entrepreneur, built this company over a period of over 10 years. So he was able to kind of share with me, and some of the challenges that he had, and really kind of encourage me to not only not to give up, but also to really set the right expectations that this is going to be part of it, and it's going to continuously, get harder and harder, and in some cases, it's going to get worse. And so, fast forwarding along, we were able to get through that tough time. I was able to kind of get my feet underneath me, finish 75 hard right around the time where we were starting to catch some good momentum with the business, hired a couple really good guys that were able to take the load off of me so I could focus more on the strategic side of the business and start to build everything there. So fast forward to the end of last year, as I mentioned, the 75 hard is the boot camp. Along with that, there's 3 additional phases that you have to complete for the year. And so I'll talk through each of those phases, and again, kind of how it helped me as I went through my entrepreneurial journey. And so phase 1 was really focused on the same core areas, but it actually added some additional tasks to it. So you had to pick 3 additional tasks that you were going to do on a daily basis. For me, I chose 3 really hard ones for me, and I'll kind of share a little bit about the reasons why. So the first one, which is actually one of the components of phase 3, is to talk to a stranger every single day. So for me in the business that I do, it's really important that I, am constantly out there trying to talk to people, identify opportunities. And on top of that, it's something that I'm really not comfortable with. I'm naturally introverted. It's very difficult for me to, approach people, especially people that I don't know, and to just start a conversation. So that was one that was, a challenge for me. I committed to it for phase 1. The second one was to start tracking my time. And so what I wanted to start doing, and this actually came from a book that I read called 10x is easier than 2x, which is around how do you make sure that you're spending your time on the right activities. So everybody's heard of the 80-20 rule, which is you want to spend the majority of your time on the 20% that is going to move your business forward. The other 80%, more of the minutia, the admin that comes with running a business, you want to try to delegate or automate that. So I wanted to get a better sense of where I was spending my time. So what I decided to do was start tracking my time throughout the day. Everything from when I first woke up in the morning to when I did my workouts, all the way to even when, I had what little recreational time I had, which is, if I had a chance to watch an hour of TV, whatever it was. And what I found was that, in actuality, I was spending a lot of time on the more beneficial, that 20%. But also, there was some things I could tweak and change and do a little bit differently there. So that was one of the additional tasks that I committed to. The third one, which another valuable one, and I'll kind of share just some of my learnings from this as I make more videos, is listening to a podcast every day, any podcast. I got into podcasts probably a couple years ago. One of my favorites that I've always listened to is from Andy Frisella. He's the one who created the 75 Hard program. And then from there, I've kind of adopted and branched out to other individuals that I follow, like Alex Hermosi, which is very focused on entrepreneurs and how he can help you in your business. Ed Milet's another one that I follow, who's just great. He has a wide variety of different interviews that he does. He also has, some thoughts that he will share directly with the audience. But my point with this is that with the podcast, it just allowed me to continue to, basically fill my mind with other ideas and also other ways that I can not only improve myself personally, but professionally as well. So phase one, 3 additional tasks. In addition to that, you got 10 minutes of visualization. So it's all about really thinking about where you want to see yourself in the future and what is referred to as touching your dream. So thinking about not only what you want, but figuring out the way that when you're visualizing it, that you can feel it, everything that comes along with it so that it stays with you a little bit longer than just, a vision board or something that you create that you look at a couple times a year. In addition to that, which I'm sure everybody loves, I hated it, is to be able to do a 5-minute cold shower every day. So again, people start to think about, well, what's the point of that? What's the purpose of the cold shower? And again, if you read the book, it really explains why each of these tasks are so important and how you can translate them into business. For this, it was all about putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. And I don't think there's any other more uncomfortable situation than sitting underneath a cold shower for 5 minutes. And the idea is that, again, in business, if you take the safe route, if you just stay within your comfort zone, you're not going to achieve your full potential. Chances are you may do well, but you're going to kind of hit that plateau where you're just not going to grow. And so constantly challenging yourself to put yourself in uncomfortable situations allows you to grow. You're going to fail. There's a lot of times where you're going to put yourself out there and things aren't going to work well, and you're going to learn from it and you're going to get better at it. But if you don't put yourself in those situations, you're never going to know, where you're going to end up in terms of personal development. So for me, couldn't stand it, but it was a great way for me to really kind of understand the meaning behind that. And one of the uncomfortable situations that I put myself in, which is what I mentioned earlier, which is to commit to talking to a stranger every single day. Not in my comfort zone at all, but in order for me to move myself forward, it's definitely something that I had to work on and get better at. So aside from those, those were probably the key ones that got added to the original 75 Hard. So for me, as I was approaching the end of the year, I started to use the visualization to think about where I wanted to see the business to be at in 3 to 5 years, where I wanted to be at personally. And then from the cold shower, I mentioned that, how I really visualized that in terms of putting myself in uncomfortable situations. And so, those 2 additional items continued the momentum that I had going into the end of the year. After phase one, you have to take 30 days off. And the reasoning behind this is you want to kind of, in a weird way, go back to feeling what it's like potentially to live the lifestyle you had before. A lot of us have the tendency that, we'll push, right? First of the year, everybody's got that game plan to lose weight, start doing better from a financial standpoint and savings. And as that slowly trickles away, you kind of develop back into your own habits. So that's the idea behind this, is that you're taking that 30 days because most likely, and I was guilty of it too, you fall back into your old habits. And then the second phase that you start is exactly like 75 hard. But again, the idea is that you're maybe feeling a little bit more uncomfortable and it's a little bit more challenging. For me, it wasn't. I was able to pretty much sustain most of the activities that I had put in place, with the exception of, dessert, which is my weakness. So going through phase two and then phase three, which is you have to do the last 30 days of the calendar year, or not the calendar year, but from the 1 year mark from when you start 75 hard. This one by far was my favorite. I was wrapping this up in March, actually, of this year is when I was wrapping up phase three. And so it was very interesting because when I was wrapping up phase three, again, business was going great. We had finally hit a really good momentum. We had expanded the business. We were starting to get that growth phase going. So I was on a roll. Things were going great. Phase three hit, felt even better. And basically phase three is taking everything from phase one and adding 2 additional tasks, which one I mentioned, which is to talk to a stranger every day. And then the other one, which I really enjoyed and actually was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, was to do an act of kindness every single day. Again, the idea behind this is that, by you doing something for someone else, it just, not only does it make you feel good, it helps that person, but it gets you in the habit of always looking, picking your head up when you're just head down running into your business, and looking for different ways that you can take a breath and, basically give back, be more of a friendly person out there. So phase three was great. Again, the talking to a stranger was a big challenge for me. For me, my go-to is if I didn't talk to a stranger throughout the day, this is when I had switched my diet up to where I was cooking fresh every single day. So I'd go to the grocery store every single day. And if I hadn't talked to a stranger, that's where I'd make conversation, which is at the grocery store. So I got really good at talking to people in the produce section and the meat counter. Those were my 2 kind of top spots. And what was interesting was, a lot of people aren't comfortable, having a conversation with somebody they don't know. So there was plenty of times where, I'd go talk to somebody who was looking at avocados, and I'd start saying, well, hey, how do you pick out the best avocado? What are some of the things that you look at? And there'd be times where the person would just look at me with a strange look and just keep going. They wouldn't even carry a conversation. And then there were other times where people would engage and kind of talk through. And in some cases, they'd actually get really excited because they'd feel like, yeah, no, I'm like a professional avocado picker, so let me share with you my secrets. And then at the meat counter, it was all about engaging people. My kind of go-to was, hey, what's on the menu for dinner tonight? Where'd you get the recipe? Is there any kind of special techniques that you use that, make this an outstanding dinner? Same thing. I'd get some people that would engage, other people that would look at me sideways and just keep walking. But that was, something, again, circling back to phase three, that really helped me get into more of a comfortable, mindset when it comes to having those kind of conversations with people that I don't know. The acts of kindness, it was everything from picking up trash on the floor to helping put shopping carts away at the grocery store that are all over the parking lot, which is one of my pet peeves. It drives me insane why people can't, put their shopping cart, 15 feet away, instead of just leaving it right there in the parking spot where nobody can park. So it was various different things that I did. So I wrapped up phase three, actually right before my 45th birthday. Same thing, was feeling great. Everything was going, really good with the business. And boom, a week later, I show up to the shop, our auto detail shop. My van was stolen. So we had just got this van about 3 months ago. That was part of the expansion. We were doing really, really well, and showed up. It was gone. Um, I was literally I didn't know what to do. I mean, at that point, in that day, we had a full schedule and had to move some things around to still figure out how to accommodate it. But it was the first really major hiccup in the business where, um, I was, just kind of thrown back. But again, I had that mental toughness to kind of say, hey, we'll get through this. We'll figure it out. Um, got through that, still kept the business going. Things were going well. We took a setback, so we started to build back up. Took a little bit of a different strategic approach. Started focusing on other services that we expanded to kind of make up for the loss there. And then 2 months later, the shop gets broken into, and literally all of our equipment gets stolen. Literally every piece of equipment gets stolen. So at that point, I literally had nothing, no van, no equipment, and really no way to continue to operate the business. So we actually shut down for 2 weeks. And to try to regroup and try to figure things out, I was able to, again, go back, repurchase, obviously, some equipment. But it was at that point that was probably my lowest point, where I really had to spend some time reflecting to figure out, what I was going to do. And at the same time is when, I was starting to get some momentum with the financial planning, which is my primary business that I focus on. I was getting some good momentum with that. This was kind of setting me back a little bit. So I really had to take some time to kind of figure things out in terms of what I was going to do. But nonetheless, again, second major challenge that popped up. And so had to figure that out. So fast forward again a couple months, started 75 Hard again in May. Worked through that, again, helped me kind of get through some of the challenges we were facing in the business. Also helped me get some momentum with the financial planning business. Things were going well. I actually completed it this time in one try, didn't have to start over. So I was really excited about that. And then, so finished 75 Hard, jumped into phase one right away, just took a couple days off. Phase one, is again, I did the same thing I did last year, focused on the same things, the podcast, the talking to a stranger, as well as tracking my time. So that's kind of where I'm at now. But, what I want to do, and my goal as I continue to produce content, is to look at a couple different ways that I can provide value to you. One is obviously on the financial planning side. I want to bring topics that are of value to you. Again, my area of specialty is around business exit planning, helping many of you that have worked so hard to build your business, that have put the blood, sweat, and tears into it, reap the rewards of all that hard work that you've done. So that is the primary part of my business. I'll continue to deliver as much valuable content as I can doing that. But in addition to that, for those of you entrepreneurs like myself that are just getting started out and trying to kind of figure a way through this, having the ups and downs, the challenges that you're going through, is to provide some feedback, not only on the personal development side, but also giving you some ideas, some things that you can do to grow your business. So from a financial standpoint, some very simple things that you can start to do that will help you get to that point where you hit the growth phase, you start to generate a decent amount of income, and you start getting into that rhythm, that momentum. So that's my goal, as we go through, a little mix of some good topics, some knowledge base, providing some examples, some stories of some different people that I've worked with, just some general stories that will kind of give you more of a visualization of, how it works to exit your business. And then also some personal development. I'll share with you just some of the books that I'm reading, some of the podcasts that I've listened to, some of my takeaways. Hopefully it helps, maybe if there's a topic that, piques your interest, whether it's a book or a podcast that maybe you want to listen to, or read, again, that's my goal, is to try to figure out how I can add as much value to you as possible.